I am now creating weekly exclusive content for Patreon, so if you are interested in that, go check out the link down below. And of course, if you want to avoid the random lottery of FIFA points, you want to go straight to the source, buy the players directly, use u7buy.com and use the code TVM at checkout. What is going on, guys? TVM here. Welcome back to another player review. I nearly choked doing that intro, but as a professional, I will continue. So, we have 90 rated team of... I can't believe you just used the term professional. I literally play... Anyway, 90 rated Nkunku. Can be used as a cam, can be used as a CM, can be used as a CDM. You could probably put him in left back if you really wanted to. He's quite diverse, to say the least. He does have a problem with him, unfortunately. That is the fact that he's got a high defensive work rate, so... And only a medium attacking. Like, if it was high or medium or even low, you would kind of argue that instruction would overpower and you'd be fine. But if you tend to stay forward and he has a high defensive work rate and he doesn't have a high attacking work rate, does he then stay forward or does he end up just tracking back because that's what he's naturally trying to do? We're going to have to go through all of that. We're going to have to try and dissect it and see if it actually does make any difference whatsoever. So... for the purpose of transparency in the video, I did use him as a cam for the most part, then used him as a central midfield player just to see how good he was in each role. He never played winger, he never played striker, didn't put him at centre-back or anything, just those two roles. Now, no instructions on him as a cam in a 4-2-3-1, and then stay back while attacking on him as a midfielder. I did dabble with no instructions, but it's just nothing to do with him at all. But I can't play like that because they wander out of position and I need them back because I am terrible at defending. Now, 4-star skills, 3-star weak foot. Many people would be happier if that was the other way around, I'm sure. For me, personally, it wasn't too much of an issue. But I can see why people would be not like, oh, I'm not doing it because he's only got a 3-star weak foot. But, you know, oh, I don't really use the skills. I would much prefer it on the weak foot. And that makes sense. But... that being said, we've been through the work rates. Does have a lean body type. That's very important to mention, and I'll get into why in just a second. Now, I'm not going to talk about a chem style for a second because the chem style you see him with on screen isn't necessarily the chem style I used the entire time, because obviously putting a maestro on a player that is playing in a CDM position doesn't really make an awful lot of sense, does it? So he would, of course, have gone through a few transitions. Now, the stats are... relatively well-rounded. I mean, he could be better. I won't lie to you. This could be a better card. If this was an SBC and he was any more than... maybe I won't put a price on it because I don't want to upset anyone, but if it was an SBC just standalone, you would expect this to be relatively cheap. I would say quite affordable. You know, like... you'd need to be cheaper than Axel Witsel because it wouldn't make sense for you to go and get this card if you could go and get Axel Witsel. The beauty of Nkunku, of course, is that he's 5'10" and has a lean body type, so he's going to feel much better in-game than the likes of Axel Witsel because obviously Witsel's height is going to interfere with that sort of mobility. And I can definitely categorically confirm that if you did... miss out on that flashback Axel Witsel, he doesn't feel very mobile at all. He's not like stiff or anything, like completely like rigid, but yeah, doesn't have that sort of agility that Nkunku definitely has. 92 acceleration, 91 sprint speed, 93 shot power if you get close enough. He's got really good short passing, 95, 92 vision. His passing is actually insane. I love how accurate his passing is. And of course, with different chem styles, for the most part, I've used a chem style that increases the passing anyway. But for example, the Maestro will bump up the vision to 97 and his short passing goes up to 99. His free kicks are really nice then at 93. And of course, he has a really long range of passing with that Maestro up to 92. The other chem styles, I did dabble with the powerhouse, but kind of thought that the backbone made a little bit more sense. So again, vision goes up to 97. Free kicks aren't touched with the backbone, as opposed to what they are with the Maestro, and of course not with the powerhouse. But yeah, you get the idea. The backbone makes sense for me personally because you get a nice +5 on strength. You get 92 stand tackle, 84 interceptions, 89 defensive awareness. Of course, he does have that high defensive work rate, so not necessarily turning him into a CDM, but making it into that sort of box-to-box more often than not. The engine is something I've seen a few people sort of suggest. A couple of people mentioned it to me, saying that the engine might make sense because then you get a lot more pace. And if you do play in box-to-box, generally that stand tackle at 82 could be enough just to disrupt play because you're not necessarily defending with your box-to-box midfielders. They are sort of there to do a bit of everything, you know, like mainly you want them there to be able to pass out and then maybe bring the ball forward. Well, he's going to be able to do that, and then of course if he needs to defend in an emergency, he can. The CDM is there to defend, the back line is there to defend. The CMs can do it if they want to, but more often than not they are going to be there to play the ball out and such. So various chem styles being used here. You can do whatever you want. Some of the clips are obviously going to be him just making tackles. Some of the clips are going to be him raking balls left to right. Really enjoyed that. I've been playing, like I said, 4-2-3-1, but using very, very wide offense. And I think that, I mean, that might be the new meta. I don't know. I do see a few people doing it. It's quite easy to counter, to be fair, though. All you need to do is do a wide defense, and then you've basically countered the over-the-top sort of cross-field ball. Maybe I've ruined that for a few people now, and you're like, oh, great, nice one. The beauty of that is, just side note to this, if you do end up coming up against someone who changes to a very wide formation and stops you doing that 4-2-3-1 down the wings sort of play, all you need to do is have a 4-1-2-2 narrow setup, play quite narrow, and then the gaps in and behind are just incredible because they've literally pushed their fullbacks out to the touchline. And you've got two centre-backs in the middle who can't cope with 4 players running at them. So it can actually work in your favour before people start moaning that I've ruined it for everyone. But with that being said, is Nkunku any good? Yes, I absolutely love this card. Now, it's not the best player I've used in the game, and I will, full disclosure, tell you that I actually really like him in real life. I would love to see this guy play in the Premier League. I'm not sure how well he'd be, like how well he'd do in the Premier League, but I would love to see him come to the Premier League. I would actually love to see him join Liverpool, but I don't see that ever happening. But we'll have to wait and see. I think his passing range is fantastic. Whether you're doing that wide play and you pass it over the top, whether you're doing really fast 1-2 passes, little through balls, and just really nice disguised passes, I think he's got it all. Very, very good, capable player. His strength was actually much better than I thought it would be. He's got 88 balance, he's got 80 strength. I think, apart from the backbone, and obviously we're not touching the balance, but the backbone is the only chem style that I used maybe for 1 or 2 games. No, I used the backbone for 3 games. I think the powerhouse I used for like 1 game and then decided that wasn't for me. So the strength boost on the backbone I think is probably when I felt it the most. He's actually quite good, and he doesn't get pushed off the ball that often either. And considering he's only 5'10", I was actually quite surprised by that. The long shots, sure, they could be used in an emergency. 88 long shots is not to be sniffed at, but I don't score that many long shots. So there may or may not be a couple of finesse shot efforts, maybe one that does end up going in here or there in the clips that you're watching, but it's not ever going to be something that I would say. I mean, if you give him a chem style though, Maestro, for example, 98 long shots, 99 shot power, that's a different story. So it depends on how you play him, and that's why this card is so difficult to review, because it quite literally comes down to how you decide to use the card. So for me personally, like I said, I think he played better in a 4-2-3-1 as a CM, and he was on stay back while attacking, because he does end up going forward. I do use those players to venture forward, but I think he's going to obviously then stay back more often than not, and he's able to break up the play with a backbone. So there we have it. Now, if we were to compare him to, if I tried to pick out like a similar player, I would actually find it very difficult, because a lot of the players that I would suggest probably either have much better defensive stats or they're just not as good in other areas. So he's almost a unique card. I tell you what though, and this is going to sound really stupid, he is quite similar to Adel Taarabt. I know, right? Adel Taarabt's had a massive defending boost, like huge, 40 overall. His defensive stats have gone up by, but it's a very similar card in the sense that they are both quite quick. They're both good from distance. They've both got good passing. Nkunku's passing is much better than Adel Taarabt. Don't get that twisted for a second. Nkunku's passing is spot on. They're both sort of quite agile, but at the same time they do have that element of not stiffness. Nkunku is extremely agile compared to Adel Taarabt, but they've got that sort of really good ball control, composure and dribbling, but they're not like super quote-unquote meta in terms of 99 agility, so they've got a little bit of rigidness to them, but then they're not amazing at defending, but they also have and possess the ability to put in a defensive performance. They are very similar in that sense. The difference between those two, of course, is that Adalterapt is far more geared towards attacking, doesn't have any stamina, and has 4-star weak foot, whereas Nkunku has insane stamina, doesn't quite have that 4-star weak foot, and is more geared to being sort of sat in the middle doing a bit of both worlds. I do like this card though. Main question, I suppose, is it worth going out and spending 300,000+ coins on just for this card if you don't do League SBC method? No, I don't think it is. If you want to work towards it, grind through it, maybe you've done some of the big teams already, I would suggest maybe taking advantage of those silver and bronze upgrades, doing a bunch of bronze packs, maybe dedicating 50k or so towards bronze packs, doing the upgrades, getting the silver players. Hopefully you can hit some Union Berlin Paderborn players and then progress toward Nkunku that way. But unless you're a massive fan of him or the team that he plays for, I don't think it's really worth doing it unless you indulge in League SBC method. Very good card though, massive fan of him, love him in real life, very good card in game. Not an awful lot of downside. Going forward, yeah, the high defensive work rate isn't ideal. Telling him to stay forward does counter it, but he does wander back, so just be wary of that. And there we go. Let me know whether you've used him in the comments. Are you planning on unlocking him? And of course, if you are unlocking him, tell me whether you actually do the League SBC method or whether you don't do it. Because if you don't do it and you plan to unlock that card, I'll be very interested to hear your thoughts as to why you want to do that and how much that's going to cost you. If you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and until the next time, goodbye.
Football Index. The game changed. Download the app now.